Well, here we are on this Thursday night, the 22nd of February, and we've got a weather system that's moving through tonight, and then a quick shot of cold air over the weekend, and then next week it warms up and it probably gets windy at some point, along with some rain along the way. So we'll discuss that in just incredible detail tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can enjoy. You too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast, and if you use the coupon code Winter2324, guess what you'll get?
Let me see. It'd be nice if they gave us a discount on anything that we bought at Tempest. A nice size discount, not like a 1 or 2%. It'd be really nice if we got a 10% discount if you said Winter 2324.
Well,
Don't you
but
agree that would be good?
Well, by coincidence, Joe, that is correct. You can ring the bell for guessing that the discount is 10% off.
Yay!
Well, I have to say, I really enjoyed myself last night. That was great to have Alan on, and he promises that he will come on the next time we have a big weather event. So hopefully that means that we get a snowstorm to talk about during the month of March.
It would be nice. I mean, and I said last night that I honestly, my humble opinion, I think that we will have at least one more shot at something, and I think it may very well come mid or late March. So let's see how everything transpires. Certainly, as it looks right now, Joe, there doesn't appear to be much of anything in terms of any significant winter weather for us in the foreseeable next couple of weeks.
Although you had sleet, and a few other people that messaged me had some sleet this evening.
Yes, we did.
Yes, did
It's
get
pretty
that
interesting.
warm. Did not get that warm today.
Well, when it was sleeting at 5 o'clock this afternoon, the temperature here at the home base was 39 degrees. So I'm not exactly sure, interestingly, I did look at some of the soundings, and it seemed to indicate that at least the boundary level temperatures would not support that type of precipitation, but apparently it did because there was little bits of sleet falling. My wife, she was coming into the garage. She said, "I definitely hear something dinging on the top of the car roof or whatever." So stepped outside. Yeah, it's sleeting, but
Yeah,
now it's
hopefully,
raining.
but a lot of the spots that had sleet were in the upper 30s to low 40s. So
Yep.
probably just some shallow cold air in there somewhere was
Right.
just enough. All right. Anybody who didn't make it last night to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast when we had Alan Casper on, that took a long time for me to get him here, but he finally did do it, and like I said, he will be doing it again if we got some big weather going on. But if you do want to watch it, you certainly can go on to the uh, my YouTube page and go to where the Joe and Joe weather shows are. They're all listed together, and just watch it on the replay. And of course, you could also find it on podcasts, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on a whole bunch of places where people call podcasts their home. So be my guest. And
And
welcome. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
the next person on the list who shows an interest in coming on to the Joe and Joe show,
Right.
none none other than Nick Gregory.
Oh, really? This is news to me.
Well, I'm just looking here on Messenger because he was not able to see the show live last night. And I said, well, all you have to do is click on the link that I sent to you, and you could watch the whole show, which ran an hour and 45 minutes. And he said, great, I'll try to watch it this evening. And that'd be fun to be on the podcast with you guys. How often do they happen? So I'm going to have to just cue him in on the
How
schedule.
often? How often do they happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
you know,
they happen Sunday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. Except for
yes,
tonight that we changed it to 8 o'clock.
yes. See that this is great because the people who were like timid,
Terror, terrified. No, the word is terrified.
terrified, now when we tell them, like, hey, you know what? Lee Goldberg was on. The great Alan Casper was on last night. Why can't you be? And then he said we shamed them into coming on. And so hopefully, because I know about a year ago or 18 months ago, I said to Nick, why don't you come on the Joe and Joe? And he said, well, I'll have to check with the powers that be here. And I never heard from Nick again. So now maybe he
Well,
has ammunition. He can go in and say, well, look, if the guy from Channel 7 was on and it was Channel 2 or whatever like that, why can't I go on? So we'll
who
see.
knows? Miracles might even happen that we hear from Joe Whitty.
And Joe Whitty, too. We'll try to get him.
Have you, has it been, 2 years since you responded to his email?
Yes, yes. I said, why don't you come on? And I never heard from him again.
Welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight, and welcome to the tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. If you're lurking from the background, if you like the show, hit the like button. Hit the like button, as we like to get to 100 likes, so Joe can ring the bell again. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss us. So you already know. I already said when we're on. David Schwartz hitting super chat tonight. Great talk on the eclipse, he says. Did you Did you see the CNN article about all the junk in orbit causing problems? The 8,300 satellites currently overhead. I know that doesn't sit well with you.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, let's say I'm trying to make a picture of a star cluster, and it's a beautiful picture. It's going to be great when we get, and all of a sudden, one of these stupid satellites comes along right across the middle of the. It's like somebody taking a pin and scraping it, with the trail that it leaves when you do a long exposure photograph. And now they're thanks to Elon Musk, who doesn't care about anybody in the astronomy world. He only cares about putting all those satellites up so that you can get better cell phone quality, which is good. I agree that's something that, but he's been putting up like literally thousands of these things into space, and no, I'm not particularly thrilled about that.
But by the way, speaking since we're talking about this, did you watch the was it Odysseus, the moon landing?
That's enough. I didn't tell you about this because we didn't have enough time. 4 o'clock this afternoon, I get an email from the Hayden Planetarium asking if I would be available to go on CBS to serve as a commentator for the landing of the moon rocket on the moon.
Nice. With
And
Nora O'Donnell?
not with Nora O'Donnell. This was the CBS news streaming service that they have.
Oh, okay.
But I said, sure, great. I mean, I always wanted to play the role of Wally Schirra to whoever was going to be the newscaster, the Walter Cronkite. But then they said, oh, the landing has been delayed until 6:24, and of course I had a library talk at 6:30, and I could not for the life of me get the library. It was the Poughkeepsie Library. Couldn't get anybody there I wanted to ask them, can you delay the talk by 15 minutes? And finally I just threw up my arms at 5 o'clock and I
You
said,
know what? You were better
no,
off that you didn't do it, only because for that reason, because that 15 minutes is such a short window, and then the worst would have happened, which would have been it got delayed, would have gotten delayed again, and you would have to push the talk back.
I hear that they lost contact with the moon rocket. At least
Yeah,
that's what.
then they got it back. They were all
Right.
applauding. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was watching some of it for a little while.
Better
All right.
luck. Better luck next time when they try landing when they land people on the moon. Maybe I'll have a chance to be the commentator for CBS then. So tune in if and when that happens.
Right.
And yeah, by the way, Joe, I just heard that they're coming out with a new movie about skiing. Everyone in the cast is in the cast.
I don't
Wah, wah.
I don't ski because, as I've said many times, I do not pay good money to fall down.
All right.
I'm just not doing it. All right, let's take a look at some weird things, because there was a weird thing. Um I might have misunderstood when I read the other day about a tropical storm, and then they put up some obscure map that I couldn't really make out the geography. I assumed they were talking about the northern hemisphere, but in fact, they were talking about the southern hemisphere. And indeed, I tried to find a satellite with the Weather Service, but they've got the story about it, but they don't have a satellite picture of it because I guess they had live updates, and now that it's gone, it's just blank. Para, I think that was the name. And so I pulled up the old GFS going back to Sunday afternoon, and indeed, off the coast of Brazil, right there, that 1,003 low that you see was a tropical depression that they upgraded to a tropical storm, and it moved southward, and then it turned kind of moved southwest for a while, lost it, and then eventually got absorbed by a big storm that moved off the coast of southern Argentina and then continued across the South Atlantic as a deepening low going eastward. So they used to think, Joe, before the year 2000, that they just didn't have tropical cyclones in the southern hemisphere. And since the year 2000, I think they've had like five of them
Wow. Wow.
on the Atlantic side.
Yeah.
And I think there was even one on the Pacific side, but it was up closer to the equator than and not down, because the
It's
water's
like what we
cooler
said
there.
with Alan. It's like what we said with Alan last night. We're seeing things now that we never thought we'd see, or things that are not adhering to the long to the scripts that we had grown up with. There's
Yeah,
all weird things that are happening now.
yeah. So you have to think that uh, you had 2 degrees of warming that's occurred, okay, and then you've had 2 degrees of warming added to that, because of the stratosphere with the Tonga volcanic eruption that shot all the water vapor up there last winter, and that's still probably playing itself out. And then you had maybe another 2 degrees of El Nino on top of that. So
Right.
yeah, I think that's enough to say. And by the way, um, because everybody, whenever this subject comes up and with respect to climate change, it's always either or. Okay, in the conversation, it's not climate change. It's cyclical. Okay, that the idea that it can't be both, it can be both. Okay. It can be both cyclical and climate change on top of it, which means that you're magnifying the warming that has occurred if you think that the warming was cyclical. That's all I'm saying. Not being political here. I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about shutting down the cattle industry because of the methane that cows produce. At least that's what they're trying to do in Europe, which has got all the farmers hacked off, especially in France. But anyway, I'm just putting that out there. Um, Going back to what you were talking about with respect to, maybe one more shot. Okay. Um, I'm gonna just put this out this on the table now, and this is now. I'm going to put also a big footnote here. So this is looking up at the stratosphere, and all through this winter, it started in December, ran through January and into February. We had models showing the polar vortex splitting in two and weakening, which would be more bullish for winter weather in North America. And every single time it didn't happen. The best we got was a couple of elongations of the actual vortex, which is now, kind of parking itself up along the north coast of Scandinavia and back over Siberia. Well, the models have been going at it again, starting at around day 9 or 10 of a split in the polar vortex. And one center goes into Europe, the other center goes up into north central Canada. And this is now the last date here on the GFS is March 9th. So you could make a case if there's a split like this that maybe, just maybe, that might open up that short window that I've been talking about, and maybe it comes around the middle of the month or a little bit afterward. But I will just say this is Rocky and Bullwinkle, with Bullwinkle continuing to try to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And it's it hasn't happened so far. Okay. All those cold air masses that were supposed to come down didn't happen. The El Nino was supposed to weaken. That didn't happen. The polar vortex was supposed to split periodically starting from December and going all the way through the winter. That hasn't happened. So I don't know why this should happen. The no, the polar vortex is supposed to weaken and fall apart anyway over the next couple of months, and that process is already started. But a split would imply that maybe that would cause some Greenland blocking to develop. Maybe that would bring some colder air down into eastern Canada and into the eastern part of the United States. Don't hold your breath, okay? Do not hold your breath on this.
Well, what can I tell you? I mean, there's some people out there who are already flying the white flag, so to speak, for winter 2024. Sometimes you need to know when to hang it up. Wild card late season snowstorms, which we might get. Ski country snows. They probably do fine second half of March, but it's not the same as a flip back to a winter weather pattern for most of the eastern part of the country. So again, we might, if we get anything, if we do get some cold, we do get some snow. I mean, by the time it arrives, winter, astronomical winter, will be practically over, and meteorological winter comes to an end in just a few days. Believe it or not.
Yeah, pretty much. So, could there be a window? Sure. If it happens, I think it'll be a short one. And if it doesn't, Rich Rodmansky, that is perfectly put. Right. The opera isn't over, Joe, until the Jardiance lady is warming up her vocal cords with the drums.
The Jardiance lady.
I have not, by the way, I have not, I actually have gone a few days without seeing a Jardiance commercial. You
Well,
know,
they had for the longest time, they had one Jardiance lady, and then they've replaced her now with a new
right? They
Jardiance
got a
lady.
new Jardiance lady. Now
And I
she's
think,
now she's in an office in a flower print dress.
I think that she actually is a better singer than the first Jardiance lady. But
Oh God. Okay, come along. It's easy to see.
hey,
The offshore
freak.
storm is going out to sea. All right, we've got watches and warnings are few and far between. Oh, get excited! There's dense fog advisories up for the lakefront of the state of Ohio, from one end of the state to the other. We've got a couple of counties in north central Montana that I think the gold is a high wind warning. Yes, it's a high wind warning for a couple of counties there. There's some blue in western Lake Superior. So what is that? Oh my, heavy freezing spray advisory. Oh, good Lord, have mercy. And a handful of counties in northern Alabama, for whatever reason, they've got wind advisories up. California's quiet. The East Coast is quiet. Florida's quiet. There's nothing really much happening. Pretty diffuse weather system here and frontal boundary running from Virginia across Ohio and then back down to southern Illinois and into Arkansas. Uh, that air behind on the other side of that frontal boundary is cold. It's in the 50s and 60s all the way up through Iowa. And we've got 40s up in Minnesota, yippee. And then there's another front that's behind to the north and across southern Canada. We're looking at temperatures that are in the teens and 20s. Oh, there's a two below zero. If you go far enough north, okay, you go far enough north, Joe, you start to see some below zero readings in central Canada. I mean, that's how pathetic it's been with respect to cold air.
Yeah, yeah. I could remember many a March where temperatures were zero or below for Montana and the Dakotas. They say, "Wow, a late season Arctic outbreak or polar outbreak," and now here we are. We're still in February, and as you just pointed out, just barely zero up in South Central Canada. That is sad.
Oh, yeah, it is very sad. Okay, satellite loop tonight. You can see this diffuse system with clouds and air and a couple of areas of rain. There are a few heavier downpours in the mix here, but I didn't think it was a big deal in terms of rainfall. I was thinking maybe a quarter of an inch. There's a storm off the Pacific coast, well off the coast of California, but getting closer because they're going to have some action there. And nice in Florida today. It was nice over me for a while till these darn clouds came in this afternoon. And we've got clear skies across the northern plains and the Great Lakes down into Texas and through much of the Southwest and much of California, enjoying some nice weather for a change after the big storm of a couple of days ago. Here's the radar this evening. See the little patch of heavy rain. There's some fairly strong echoes there moving off the New Jersey coast. You see it there? There's a little blob of red.
Right, right.
I wonder if there's a little kaboom in there. Could it be, or
Uh,
is
I
that,
believe,
or is that like that sleet layer?
I believe that on his 6 o'clock report, Lee Goldberg was alluding to that in the Philadelphia area. They were getting lightning and thunder.
Oh,
So, so
wow.
it is indeed convection.
Okay. And we've got some heavier showers and a few smaller thunderstorms going on across the border of Tennessee and Kentucky, and those are swinging eastward. Some showers in the Appalachians, some showers aloft over me. Supposed to start raining here soon. And let's see what SPC is doing, if they're doing
David,
anything.
David, David Schwartz on the chat board. Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth shattering
Shattering
kaboom.
kaboom. Right. I'm trying to blow up the Earth because it obscures my view of Venus.
Yeah.
Marginal risk tonight in eastern Kentucky, northern Tennessee, northern Mississippi, western Tennessee. General thunderstorms to the east, but they don't have anything indicated as far as what's up in southern New Jersey. And then for tomorrow, we've got a
It's a renegade.
small, yeah, renegade stuff. Tomorrow, we've got a small area in South Carolina into North Carolina where there's a marginal risk and no tornado risk there. And they have no severe weather risk for day 3. And I don't think they had anything in the long range. Potential too low, potential too low. Ooh, day 6 and 7, Joe. Very exciting. Day 6.
Yeah.
Um, they've got it from eastern Oklahoma to Arkansas, northeast into Illinois. Day 7, a pretty large area. Both that was on 15%, so that's an implied slight risk. And they've got a fairly large area of slight risk, 15%, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and Ohio, down through Kentucky, Tennessee, much of Alabama, northwest Georgia, most of Mississippi, most of Arkansas, and northeast Louisiana. So that's interesting. And then let's see, is there anything on day 8? No, predictability too low. Predictability too low.
Yes.
Okay, so that means that maybe, but we're not sure.
Well,
And
I mean, the fact that they're making forecasts out to 6 and 7 days. I mean, they never did that 2 years ago. I mean, these experimental progs have been out for a while now, but now they're getting a little bit more. A little, they're saying, "Hey, why don't we? Let's go all the way out there," and they're doing it. So I tip my hat to the folks at SPC for going that far out and predicting possible severe weather.
well, the models are showing a fairly strong storm coming out of the Rockies and going up into the Western Lakes, so sort of makes sense. And we're coming to the end of February, so we're going to start to see this more and more. 7-day rainfall amounts. So this takes us to next Thursday night. So this covers the weather system for next week, at least some of it. Ohio Valley, 1.5 to 2 inches of rain are being forecast there for the Tennessee Valley too. Down into northern Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. Some of tonight's stuff is in here as well. In the Northeast, looking at a half an inch, some areas 3/4. There's about a quarter of an inch worth for tonight into tomorrow morning. So maybe another half an inch for later on with a warm front that's going to try and go by Tuesday night into later Tuesday into Wednesday. And then we'll have the cold front to deal with, which will be more like Thursday night into Friday. So this doesn't have that cold front coming in. In the West, big precip in the Sierra Nevadas. You know what that means. And also up in the Pacific Northwest from Oregon all the way up into the western half of Washington. So probably the Cascades will do well with some snowfall there. And WPC, did I get? No, here it is. So this is the probability for at least 2 in the east, 50% in eastern Maine, otherwise nothing. And, small chance in the central and southern Appalachians come Saturday. And in the west, only up in Washington and northern Idaho and northwestern Montana do we have probability for at least 2 inches over the next 7 days. Let's look at the long range. Let me just see what they're doing here. This is the latest. All right, so Sunday into Monday, it's in the northwest. Monday into Tuesday, it's in the northwest and also down into the Sierra Nevadas of California and spreading a little bit further eastward toward Colorado. Tuesday into Wednesday, it's concentrated over the central Rockies and back into the Wasatch. And Wednesday into Thursday, they've got a 30 to 50% chance indicated for northeastern Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and a larger area of 10 to 30 that goes back into northern Iowa and also down into central Illinois, northwest Indiana, and over into Michigan. So obviously nothing here in the eastern part of the U.S. Boy, has it been boring. I don't mind it if it doesn't snow. If we've got storms to talk about in other places, but this winter has really just been lacking everywhere.
Yeah, well, the only the only place that seems to be above normal snow wise, we pointed this out as a virtue of that narrow snow band from last weekend, is Allentown, Pennsylvania. Everybody else, even Minneapolis and Milwaukee, those are places that are below normal, and it looks like this will be the year. I'm not going to say the year without snow, but boy, I tell you, this has been a real downer if you're
Oh
into.
yeah. All right, so this front with rain moves up and down the East Coast and goes out tomorrow with a low that develops just southeast of Long Island and goes away. Not even much of anything in snow, even up in Maine. Then there's a second front that comes down with the colder air. So actually Friday, once the rain stops, depending on how long it lasts, well, I mean, if it gets out early enough, maybe in the afternoon somebody is able to get into the 50s briefly. But then here comes the cold front, and we'll be 20s and Saturday morning, probably not out of the 30s on Saturday, with this quick cold shot of cold air. Lingers into Sunday morning, then we start to moderate. Meanwhile, you can see in the northwest, you got a fairly active system there that's coming in um, on Sunday night. Actually, it starts to come in Saturday night into the northwest and spreads snow down the coast. Even along the coast, they've got snow. The light GFS has got light blue snow, maybe even for Seattle, if this is right. But it does bring some substantial snows through Oregon, the Sierra Nevadas, into Utah, western Colorado. Now we've got one low that runs out ahead into the Western Lakes. So that's the Dakotas stuff. I mean, sorry, that's for Minnesota. Yeah, and the Dakotas. So that's up there. And we've got a warm front to deal with. The one thing that I noticed, Joe, that starting on Tuesday, the gradient is going to slowly begin to tighten up from the southwest. And it's going to stay relatively tight right through Thursday as the second low comes out, and that goes into Illinois and Indiana and to near Detroit, and we finally get a cold front to come through here late Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. Maybe it changes to snow up in northern New York and northern Vermont into Maine, and then
See
then
that
a quick
cold front
cold front.
might that cold front. I know they don't want to go out to 8 days, but it looks to me right there that that cold front could very well carry some convection through our area, maybe even
Oh,
a
I agree.
storm.
I agree. I mean, there's a pretty good south-southwest wind here, but with the isobars there, you got a strong high just northeast of Bermuda that's kind of holding as that front approaches, and the low deepens to what is that, a nine? I can't see, 993-ish. So then that goes away, and you've got more snow that comes into the northwest um, late next week. Going into next weekend, that doesn't look like much. Little cold high comes down if you want to believe it. And we're now in the who knows part of the forecast with the models. It's some sort of inverted trough that wants to move a little storm up the coast around hour 300. Of course, there's not a stitch of cold air anywhere. And anyway, it's on and on and on. You just can't. When you've got an upper air that looks like this, I mean, look at this. This is just this is horrible. I'll bring the North America view up. I mean, first of all, here's this is horrid. Okay, that is awful. There is no polar connection whatsoever, except for the cold air that's coming down from the Arctic and into Alaska. Okay, and then some of that kind of gets spread eastward across the North Pacific into the Pacific Northwest. Big deal. And then the rest of it's just deflected well up to the north. Meanwhile, what do we have here? Is just this, this Pacific this jet with a 570 height. What is this, May? But we've got this 570 height that just floods that just floods the eastern part of the United States. And by the way, that's after next week. To be going into that, it's just as bad. I mean, there's just from the standpoint of winter weather, it's just not working here with troughs that keep dropping down into the western part of the United States. You cannot get rid of that trough from Alaska to the west coast. It just doesn't want to go away. And all through this forecast period, that's all you see. That trough is there. Um, you
And
start to
that's
see
why,
it.
by the way, and that's why, by the way, Alaska. You talk about places that have been overly warm with a lack of snow. Alaska has been cold this winter season, especially central and southern Alaska. Anchorage has been setting records with snowfall. I went to Anchorage back in 2016. There was hardly any snow there. This year, quite a bit of a different story. They're getting tons of snow, very cold weather, and again, it's due to that trough that, as you just mentioned, Joe, just doesn't want to seem to go away.
Johnny Quest, thanks for hitting Super Chat tonight. And he says, have you seen the reports about the Eastern Atlantic Ocean water temperatures are so warm they're at the same they're the same as the temperatures that they see in July. I wouldn't be shocked. It doesn't shock me. I did also see the fact, Joe, that the Atlantic Ocean water temperatures as a whole are like almost four standard deviations above normal. Four standard deviations above normal.
That is super scary. I don't know about you, and we saw last year. They were predicting with the El Nino, and we normally would say, "Oh, El Nino, well, it'll be a lower than normal season as far as hurricanes," and that was anything but. It was well above. Now we have La Nina, which means enhanced tropical cyclone activity to begin with. You take that plus, a 3 or 4 deviation above normal temperature spread for the Atlantic Ocean. What the hell are we looking at for this upcoming summer season? Uh,
Well, look,
is it possible, Joe, that we'll go through not only just our alphabet? Is it possible we'll go through the Greek alphabet as well?
we don't have no. They have a separate set of names now. They don't have the Greek
We'll go through
alphabet
the
now.
separate set of names. We'll go through it. We'll go through 2 sets of names. We'll start on a third set next year.
Well,
With
here's
this,
the El Nino in the Pacific, which has not gone away. It's probably it's a little bit weaker than what we maybe looked at a few weeks ago, but it's still there. And yeah, I mean, look at the Atlantic side. There's a pocket of below normal ocean water temperatures off the southeast coast and near Bermuda. But here's the Eastern Atlantic from Spain all the way down to off the African coast. That's pretty interesting because the water temperatures there in that darker red brown, that's 3 to 4 degrees above average. Celsius now, not Fahrenheit, Celsius. So yeah, the whole tropical Atlantic is pretty much ablaze at the moment. The Gulf of Mexico is mostly above normal. The Caribbean is mostly above normal. I don't know, Joe. I mean, if it's a La Nina year and with the ocean water temperatures, are we going to have an early start to hurricane season to start seeing, storms floating around in later in May and in June? Not
well,
impossible.
well, we saw the first tropical cyclones occurring in May. So I think like 6 out of 10 times over the last like 10 or 12 years. And I even said on more than one occasion, I said maybe this is going to force the National Hurricane Center. Maybe it'll force them to actually change the start of the hurricane season to May 15th instead of June 1st.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of red tape they got to cut through to do that.
I
Because
just
it's,
saw.
I did see I did see something where the Hurricane Center head was asked about that, and he said something to the effect of that. There's a, it's not their decision. It's you got all the world, the meteorological organizations around the world have to, sit down and have a catered breakfast and lunch and dinner and Danish, you know, and donuts and sit there and muse for a week and then come out with something several years from now that maybe they'll do it, or maybe not. So,
Patricia Olson on the chat board says, I love the video of the April 1982 storm. That was a blizzard in New York City with Storm Field giving the forecast. It's on YouTube. Patricia, is that before the storm arrived or after the storm arrived? Because I remember very distinctly that Storm Field was the only forecaster on television who was telling everybody that we were going to get no more than 2 inches of snow. He was the only one. I mean, like, and I remember I was working that night. I was looking at the new data, and I say, "So, man, we're gonna get clobbered with this the next day, with like maybe 6 to 12 or 8 to 14." And here's this guy coming on Channel 7, 1982 April, the night before this storm, and telling everybody, "Don't worry about it. We're not going to get more than a couple of inches. No big deal." I'd love to see if that's the YouTube video. I'd love to see that. That really was amazing that he actually had the gall to do that, or the nerve to do that, because everybody, even his father at that night, was going big time snow, and here's this one guy saying, "Don't worry about it. Ain't going to amount to anything."
all right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy and head to the weekend, shall we?
Yes, surely.
Surely. All right, we're still on these average highs for February. Well, pretty soon we'll be out of February. Let's start with Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, Virginia.
Average high in the month of February
Yes.
in Richmond, Virginia. How about 55 degrees?
Not a bad guess. Not the right guess, but not a bad one. Vincent Croce said 56. Christinapedia said 43, too low for Christinapedia. Craig Carlberg 47. Chris Alley, very close. Snake Country. Helen Bertona, ring the bell for Helen Bertona and Matthew Howe and Frank Scalera and J Dog, all nailing it at 52. All right, let's go up north and go to Rochester, New York. Rochester, New
Rochester.
York, for the month of February.
Rochester. Well, they could very well, they are in the snow belt, although it ain't going to happen probably this year. Um, what could they possibly have for February? Um, what did we say the other day? Didn't we do Buffalo the other day?
Hmm.
And Buffalo, I think we said like 33. So I'll say 34 for Rochester.
Well, you are in Snake Country, and so is Patricia Olson at 34. Michael McGuire went the Buffalo route, which is a little bit lower at 33. But Craig Carlberg, the first one to post a guess, gets it, along with William Uber. And I'm trying to see if there's anybody else. I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm not seeing it. Um, 35. 35. Seattle.
35.
Seattle.
What?
Seattle.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't sure what you were saying. That's all. Seattle. Uh, I've been to Seattle. Nice city. Um,
Did
what
you
could it
go on
possibly?
that? Did you go up that? What is it? That building they have? That's their
Yeah,
tallest building.
it's from the World's Fair. Yeah,
Right.
it's still there. What possibly could Seattle be? The 10. I don't know. In February, I'll say 50.
Ring the bell for yourself.
Ding, ding.
And Maggie P also getting it at 50. A few folks got put 49, but nope, 50. Virginia Beach.
Is that
Virginia Beach.
Virginia
Virginia.
Beach or is it Norfolk? Norfolk.
Virginia Beach, Virginia. Virginia
Yes.
Beach.
Okay. Um, what did I say for? What did I say for Richmond?
Uh, I don't remember.
I don't remember. You
Richmond
see,
was 50. Richmond was 52. That was the
we're
actual one.
getting old. That's
Yeah.
the. How about? All right, I'll say 53.
Matthew Howe, Frank Scalera, uh, Patricia Olson, and you all said 53. And you know what, Joe?
We're all wrong.
You're all correct. So you get to ring the
Oh,
bell again.
oh, lovely. Hey, I'm having a ball here with the bell. Let me just check here. I haven't had a chance. So many things are going on my screen
No,
here.
we're only at 79.
Oh,
Washington D.C. is the next to last one before the bonus.
what about 49?
Ooh, ooh,
Ooh, ooh.
ooh. Christinapedia also. Ooh, ooh. John Melander, Frank Scalera, uh, at 48, and Carol DeCara and William Uber all at 48. You four have guessed it correctly. And the last one, this is going to probably throw a few people off. Um,
Denver.
Flagstaff. Well,
Oh,
same principle. Flagstaff, Azarona.
oh God. Yeah, Flagstaff. Been there.
Done that.
Uh, haven't done that. They're so hilly and they ration. What did Fred Flintstone used to do when he couldn't figure something out? Ration, fraction, a ration, and a
Right.
rat. How
Exactly.
about how about 40, 45?
Oh my God. So close, Joe. So close.
40,
Christinapedia also said 45, and so did Michael McGuire, and so did Mark Franz Sr. So
the Matthew
close.
Howe.
So close. Um, but the answer is, I'm trying to see if anybody, Rich Rothmansky nailed it at 46. 46. A lot of you said 45 or 44. A couple of you said 47. So you were all in the ballpark. That's a pretty good guess. Yeah, that was tricky because Flagstaff gets a lot of snow
Yes.
because it's always cold at the right time. By the way, speaking of the Fred Flintstone commercial, and I think they did this on purpose. Have you seen the new Aflac commercial where the duck is bowling?
No, I have
Oh,
had the duck.
you have to see it because the duck is bowling, and you know when Fred Flintstone would be getting ready to roll the bowling ball,
Yeah.
right? And he would get on his toes, and they would make that the sound effect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, they did that in the commercial with the Aflac duck, and it's got to be that had to be somebody thinking, let Fred Flintstone when they because as soon as when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, they got that from Fred Flintstone.
that's funny.
You'll see it. It's been running a
Always,
lot lately.
I've always said that the Flintstones were equal to the Honeymooners in terms of comedy and in terms of getting laughs, up until the moment that Wilma had Pebbles. As soon as Wilma had Pebbles, it became more of a kid show than you
Yeah.
know adults can. I mean, the early Flintstones were a riot, a laugh
Oh
riot.
yeah.
You
But
remember that?
they weren't poor though. I mean, they weren't really poor. They were a little more middle class. I always thought.
Well, I mean, there was that one episode where Fred wanted a bottle of Cactus Cola, which, by the way, there is a cola. There is actual
Yeah,
soft
I've
drink,
seen it.
Cactus Cola. My brother-in-law gets it for us every year at Christmas time. But it's a hot day. He's coming home. He's looking for the Cactus Cola. Wilma says, "Oh, Barney was here, and I gave it to him." and he goes over the fence. Barney is washing his car, and he sees a bottle on the car, and he grabs it and says, "Ah, I'm getting it before you had a chance to drink it." He guzzles it down, and Barney says, "No, Fred, no, don't do it. No, no, Fred." And he, and Barney says, "Fred, can I ask you a question?" And he says, "You better make it a good one. It's the last one I'm ever going to answer for you." He said, "Okay, Fred, why did you drink my car polish?" And he says, "Car polish? Oh my God, car polish! I'm poisoning. Barney, do something." And Barney says, "I'll get a chamois."
Nice. All right, the Joe and Joe weather show.
You had to
No, I
be there.
understand. The Joe and Joe weather show is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can enjoy the fastest growing observing weather net. You too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description of this podcast. Use the coupon code winter2324, and if you do,
You'll get 10% off. Thanks to David Schwartz and Johnny Quest for hitting the tip jar. Remember that time when? Remember the time when Wilma was going to be the happy homemaker, and she signed a 39-week contract, and Betty tells Barney, "Fred is going to eat with us for the next 39 weeks," and Barney says, "Fred Flintstone's going to eat with us? Oh my God, Betty, we're going to be ruined." And she says, "Oh, come now, Barney. How much can Fred Flintstone eat?" And the line, "Nobody knows. He's never been filled."
It's too funny. All right, guys. Everybody, guys and gals on the chat board, have a great night, great weekend. We'll see you Sunday night at 7:35 p.m. Nighty night.
90